So, did you know that if you learn to talk better, you will do better? In fact, the fastest, best, and most thorough way to level up your life is level up your ability to communicate. The quality of your life is always going to be in direct correlation to the quality of your communication. Now, when I talk about communication, you just think I'm talking about talking to people, right? That's the first thing that comes to your mind, talking to people. That's only one aspect of communication. See, we have internal communication, the things I say to myself. We have external communication and our external. Communication has two directions. There's our vertical, external communication, that communication between us and God. And then there's our horizontal, external communication, our communication between us and others. And most recently, our external communication between us and technology. Or I should say, more impactfully recently, our external communication between us and technology. And I remember back in the 80s when I went to visit this church in Texas, and I heard the pastor speak, and I thought, I don't know if I thought any of these words, but I remember feeling like, why is this so painful for me? It seems like the people who have the least to say take the longest not to say it. And one of the things I noticed about this particular preacher was his most prolific description of everything was the word thing. Well, you got to do that thing. Make sure. And I was like, sure that you can find another word, but apparently he couldn't. And when I think about people, I had a conversation with a gentleman the other day, and I noticed that he mumbled a lot. And I thought, this is really a fascinating way to communicate. It's kind of like mumbling is kind of like non-committed verbal expression. Like, I don't want to say this too clearly. I don't want to enunciate and pronunciate these words too clearly, because then I might have to take responsibility for. I don't really know what was going on, but I was like, why does this guy keep mumbling? It's so fascinating. And then you hear some people communicate, and some are clearly intelligent, others clearly not so much. And they use a lot of profanity. And I'm like, this is fascinating. It's fascinating to me that you use non-adjectives to attempt to describe what you mean. And you think you're emphasizing something, but what you're really emphasizing is a lack of clarity. Yes, because the words that you're using are not describing anything that you're talking about when you use profanity, like it's an expletive, but it's not an explanation. And it's an expletive, but it's not an exclamation. It's just an exploitative. It's a demonstration of verbal laziness. I know there are people who disagree with me, but they would only disagree with me because they do it. They wouldn't disagree with me because they thought about it. Because if they thought about it, they wouldn't do it. If anybody who uses profanity thought about the negative effects of profanity, they wouldn't use it. In fact, anybody who uses negative words on rinse and repeat of any kind, not just profanity, if they understood the negative impact on their life, they wouldn't use them. Like even words like try and maybe. And I know people think, well, try is not that bad, really. When every time somebody says, well, this is what I'm trying to do, I have like this visceral physical reaction, and I do everything inside of myself to resist showing it on the outside. I pull up all of my internal resources to not have a reaction to the word try, because there's no such thing what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm doing it or I'm not doing it. Now, when I do it, it might do what I expected it to do, and it might not do what I expected it to do, but I didn't try to do it. I did it. It just didn't do what I thought it would do when I decided I was going to do it. Does that make sense? And so long time ago, Tony Robbins, I heard in one of his original cassette tapes back in the 90s, okay? He said, if you want to model any form of human excellence, you have to find somebody who's really good at the thing that you desire to be good at. And you have to model three things. And those three things are, you find that person, you model their belief systems, you model their physiology, and you model their mental syntax. And he said, model their belief systems. Well, what is a belief anyway? Think about that. What's a belief? What is a belief system? A belief is a story that you tell yourself about an expected outcome. Is that right? Right. A belief is a story that you tell yourself about an expected outcome. And so most people, when they tell themselves stories about expected outcomes, they tell themselves unfavorable stories and then wonder why they get undesirable outcomes. And I'm like, do you understand that if you just got better at communicating with yourself, the stories you tell yourself as you are creating and perpetuating your beliefs, if you just got better at that part of your life, every other part of your life will get better. Positive thinking doesn't necessarily help you achieve everything, but it does necessarily help you achieve everything better than negative thinking does. And so you got to learn to talk better. You got to learn to talk better when you talk to yourself. You got to learn how to stop calling yourself names like, oh, you're so stupid. oh, you're such an idiot. Oh, I can't believe you're such a loser. Like you. Like there's no good that can come out of talking to yourself that way. I listen to people talk to themselves and I think to myself, if you had other friends who talk to you the way you talk to you, you would let them be your friend. And so we are so either lazy with language or unintentional with language. What would happen if you became hyper intentional about every thought you think and every belief you have and every story you tell yourself, especially the stories you tell yourself about yourself and your chances? What would happen if you leveled that up? You talk better, you do better. Even if I did believe something wasn't going to work out for me, I wouldn't claim it. I'm not talking about name it and claim it, blab it and grab it, say it. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about empowering, using your words to empower your expectations. Because expectation is your greatest superpower as a human being, whether you know it or not. Yeshua himself said, if you can believe, all things are possible to him that believes. Now, all things are possible. I get it that doesn't mean every single solitary thing, right? You're not going to jump off the Empire State Building and land on your feet. I mean, if you do, pretty much your feet and everything else is going to hurt. But all things are possible means all types, all manner, all kinds of things are possible that are not possible if you don't believe, okay? So I'm going to strengthen my internal communication. I'm going to resist the temptation to put the past on repeat and expect my past experiences as my future expectations. I'm going to resist that temptation. As I was thinking about why do most people have such disempowered expectations? Why are most people so much better at expecting the worst than they are at expecting the best? Is that a good question? And I think most people are so much better at expecting the worst than they are expecting the best because they know exactly what the worst feels like, or at least the worst they felt feels like. They know what it's like when they go through pain. And sometimes pain is an amplifier, right? When you go through something that's difficult and it's really, really painful for you, it amplifies the feeling. And feelings are the drivers of humanity. Like human beings are singularly motivated. And by that I mean people do things for one reason and one reason only. What's that reason? Because they feel like it. So what if the real reason that you procrastinate is not because you're a procrastinator? What if the real reason you procrastinate is not because you have a procrastination problem? Because I've discovered that nobody has a procrastination problem. Procrastination is nobody's problem. Procrastination is a symptom of a problem. What's the problem? The problem is anxiety. What is anxiety? Anxiety is that feeling I get when I'm expecting an unfavorable outcome. Do you understand? Have you ever walked up to a chair and got ready to sit down and then you notice one of the legs was wobbly? You wouldn't let yourself sit down in that chair, would you? No, you wouldn't let yourself sit down in that chair. Why? Because your expectation is this chair won't hold me. So you don't put all your weight down. Do you understand that? When you look at a scenario and the scenario looks unstable, it doesn't let you put your subconscious mind will not let you put your weight in that scenario. Are y'all tracking? And so what I have to do is I have to learn how to examine. First of all, I don't want to put my weight down in a situation that won't hold me. It's kind of like when I hated flying. You say, what does hated flying mean? It means I was scared, right? I was like, this doesn't make sense. This is so dumb. Every time I got on a plane, this is so dumb. This thing weighs hundreds of thousands of pounds. And we're all up here in this tube acting like this is normal. And people were sleeping and I'm looking at everybody. I'm like, are y'all insane? Absolutely. I was scared. And I got on a plane. I never put all my weight down. I'm locked in. Somebody tapped me on my shoulder. Hey, bruh, you know that chair's on this plane too. Why you messing with me, man? Right? And so I hated flying because I was scared because it didn't make sense. So my expectation was, since it didn't make a plane weighs more than a city bus. You've been flying around out there. You've seen other planes in the sky while you've been flying around, right? Have you ever seen a city bus in the sky? No, this don't make sense. I've never even seen any cars up there. It's making less and less sense by I've not seen a stinking bicycle in the air. And this 757 that weighs 250,000 pounds is 40,000 feet in the air going 500 miles per hour and everybody's acting like it makes sense. Oh, right. So my anxiety would not allow me to relax every time there was a sound, a bump. Right. Didn't help that I watched a movie one time about that flight that was in Hawaii when the fuselage came off. Did anybody ever see that? It was so terror-like I do not watch plane crash movies. I know. I'm not watching a movie about a plane crash. I'm not doing it. I spent too much time on planes to even think about that. Right. So anyway, so I said, this is not healthy, mind. This is not healthy for you to be scared every time you get on a plane because you get on way too many planes, bro. This is not good. I got to fix this. Okay? How you going to fix it? I'm going to take flying lessons. Got to take flying lessons. I can get on a plane now, fall asleep before it takes off, and wake up after it lands. Wow. Why? Because it makes sense. So what I did was I educated myself at a higher level by learning some principles that gave me the ability to tell myself a better story. In fact, did you know that planes are designed to fly? And that design is so good that if a hurricane or a tornado is coming to an end area, they have to remove the planes because the planes will fly with that much wind, even if nobody's on it. Wow. It's easier for a plane to fly than it is for it to stay on the ground. In fact, if you leave a plane on the ground too much and it doesn't fly, the plane will eventually become worthless because of lack of use. Wow. So what did I do? I changed the story. Changed the story. When I changed the story, changed my belief. Ain't scared no more. In fact, I was the co-pilot on a twin-engine prompt jet from Tampa or from Lakeland to the Bahamas. And it was like 2.5-hour flight. And I'm like, I got my headset on, my Bose headset on, and I'm looking at the avionics and I'm adjusting the trim and I'm doing all the stuff the pilot's telling me to do. We had to fly around storms and stuff. It was so cool. This was from a guy who used to get on a plane and not put all his weight down. Right. So what am I telling you? I'm telling you I have to improve. You have to improve your internal communication. You have to improve your vertical communication from the standpoint that this will change your life. When God has said something in scripture, let that be the end of it. Just act as if it's true. The most fascinating thing that I've observed in my life in attending church and watching people who attend church is they feel real good about it while they're there and do absolutely nothing about it when they leave. Blows my mind. People who read the Bible every day and apply apparently none of it or very little. Like they give up a couple of things and take on a couple of things right after they come to Christ. And then what happens after that? They're like, okay, I'm there. There is no there. That's the point. And so my vertical communication with God improves when God gives me an objective and I line up my life with that objective. And I realize that when I'm praying and I'm talking to God, I am not talking to God to get him to do my thing. I'm talking to God to get me in tune with him so I can do his thing. Changes the game. It changes the game completely. And then when I do that, my external communication changes. The quality of your life is going to be in direct proportion to the quality of the communications you have with other people. Because it's the communications that you have with other people that help you find a mate. It's the communications that you have with other people that help you raise responsible children. It's the communications that you have with other people that help you get a job if you want a job. It's the communications you have with other people that give you the ability to hire employees if you need delegation. And the communication that you have with other people is what is required for you to acquire business partners and clients and business relationships of all kinds. Your ability to verbalize message that shows the people you're talking to what they get out of engaging with you is going to determine the quality of your life. And so it's amazing. The best time to think about what you're going to get out of a conversation or an interaction is before the interaction starts. Once the interaction starts, you have to make it all about them. And you have to figure out before you engage with them, how you making it all about them is going to be beneficial to them and beneficial to you. You have to figure it out before you engage in the conversation. And most people are terrible at that. It's quite fascinating. I've often thought, this person had this really great idea. Maybe they're an inventor. Maybe they're a software developer. Maybe they're an author. And they're really, really good at coming up with a solution. And then they start talking to people about it. And when you hear them talk about it, it's horrible. Like, how could you take this beautiful thing and make it that ugly? Well, what happens is one of two things. Either they fall in love with the trinkets that they've invented or the templates that they've designed, or they fall in love with the amount of time they put into becoming the expert. So they think that the other person is going to fall in love with spending time with them. So they think time with them is the value of their offer. Or the other mistake they make is they realize that they've created something so good that they're going to get paid a lot of money. And so now instead of thinking about the transformation that they've created for other people, when they're talking to other people, they're thinking about the transaction and they're not thinking about that person's transformation. And so as soon as they realize they're getting paid, they mess up the story. It's so fascinating. And so what you've got to learn how to do is you got to learn how to communicate with other people in such a way that shows them the value that they get from engaging with you while realizing and simultaneously not caring. I shouldn't say not caring, simultaneously not being focused on the value that you get from that interaction. It's really challenging to do, especially if you don't understand that it's the thing that you need to do in order to make the thing that you're working on do the thing that you intended it to do when you started working on it. It's so easy to get distracted by the minutia. It's so easy. No wonder most people are terrible. Which means, by the way, though, most people are terrible at doing all this stuff I'm talking about. Which means if you get good at it, you'll be one of the best in the world.
Wow.
This is why, if you talk better, you do better. Now, here's the latest place I realized this. Artificial intelligence. Your ability to leverage AI to the fullest is going to be in direct proportion to your ability to describe exactly the outcome you desire. And then challenge the outputs that the AI gives you with more and better articulation. Your ability to communicate with AI is going to determine whether or not AI takes you along for the ride or whether you get left behind. Period. So Mayan, I get all of that. What's the best way for me to level up my communication? There are two things. Here's the good thing about two. All of us can count to two, and all of us can remember two things. Now, aren't you glad I didn't say 200? Not that you can't count to 200, but it might be a little bit of a challenge for you to remember 200 things. So two things. Read more well-written good books with good ideas. Read more. Number two, write more. Write more what? By reading books, and you're listening to videos like this one right here, and you're having conversations with intelligent people, and they say something in those books, on those videos, in that conversation that really resonates with you. Don't write down what they said. Write down what you thought of as a result of what they said. That will be your unique content that levels up your life for the rest of your life. Hope this video helps you talk better, do better, level up your life by leveling up your communication. We'll see you on the next video.